Hey, shalom, all praises unto Yahweh Hashem Shai, double honors to the apostles of GreatMillStone, and honestly, brothers, to be pushing this truth in sincerity throughout the four corners of the earth. Okay, so this is going to be a little bit of an extended video. It should be underneath 40 minutes. It should be about 20 minutes, to be honest. But pretty much, if you go into my video histories, you'll see there's about 3 or 4 videos there dealing with the history and that. And I was supposed to move into the history dealing with the Maccabees and so on and so forth, but the Spirit had it to where I did some more, went down a different path, because I did read it, and you know I really need a path for it to really do it properly, and I just haven't found that as yet. So the next thing I did, okay, was I tried to study through the teachings of the elders, a Great Millstone, some of the stuff that was happening with the rise of the Roman Empire, okay, the rise of the Greek Empire, which is what I'm going through today. Whether I do a video on that remains to be seen. But you know, I'll go in the spirit. But pretty much what I found is, and this is not mysterious find or anything like that, but pretty much what you find in within history, okay, the history of wars, you pretty much find out what's going to happen within the future. This is the main premise of this video. Okay, so I'm studying, you know, in the midst of studying, you know, the Roman Empire and all of that, and pretty much when you go into the Punic Wars, I don't know too much about it, but I've got to this page here, and I thought I'll do a video on it because, well, the regional conflicts that started the Punic Wars, which is what I'm going to read excerpt out of this, is a lot of it's very reminiscent of what's happening out here with these regional conflicts, where at any time you can have World War III pop off. Okay, so what we know from history, or what people say is, when you study history, pretty much you can predict the future. Okay, now we already know through the scriptures that the Most High is going to have this battle happen, where it's going to happen, etc., etc. But let's just go through the history and see how regional conflicts turn into all-out you know, how they turn into massive conflicts. Okay, you know, you got it to where these Punic Wars, they want no lonesome things. Okay, these were you know, large superpowers, not necessarily the biggest superpowers on the scene at the time. Rome was still in its rise. You had the Greeks. This was the transition between this was you know, you got it to where when about 300 BC you had Alexander on the scene. Rome is rising up to power, and this was the statement, pretty much the statement that put Rome on the map. Okay, in the advent of them winning the Punic Wars. Okay, like I said, I don't know too much about it, but certainly what we could do is we could read this regional conflict, see the implications of it. Okay, and then how that transpires to our modern day times, and how pretty much these regional conflicts for resources, for wealth, okay, for territorial superiority, lead to all-out wars. And that's what you're seeing right now. You're seeing regional conflicts out here within all over the world. Okay, you know, you got it to where you got regional. It says here, this article here says what? Let's close that off. It says 6 of the world's most worrisome disputed territories. Okay, and this is on Nat Geo, National Geographic. That's why you're seeing the adverts there, because well, they're trying to get some money from somewhere. Okay, and when we go down to the 6 6 regional, what they calling this, the 6 most disputed territories. We've got the Crimea, the Black Sea Peninsula is predominantly an ethnic Russian population, became a part of Ukraine in 1954, and both Russian and Ukraine were part of the Soviet Union. With recent military occupation of Russian forces and subsequent referendum to join Russia has been commended by many world leaders as illegitimate. So you got that's the thing of the West. Okay, let's get that out of the way. The West versus the East. Okay, Russia versus America, or American influence, which I believe part of that American influence goes down as deep as Ukraine. You know, I haven't studied this Crimea thing for a little while, so apologies if I misquote a few things. But again, we got a situation where regional interests, okay, the movement of wealth, okay, the movement of resources, okay, is being the area in which it's done is being disputed, so you can have a clear leader, right, on the global scene. Okay, again, you got the East China Sea. All right, I can't remember what was the exact thing that was going on with the East China Sea off the top of my head, but you have some territory is being disputed there, whether it was for easy maritime movement or whether they had found some oil there or something like that. Like I said again, I can't remember the exact story of how it happened, but I'm pretty sure I did a short video on it. Okay, so and you could definitely find videos where brothers have gone into it more than I could ever do, right, on the subject. So it says a chain of remote energy-rich islands, right, known as Senkaku Islands in Japan and Daeoyu Islands in China are subject of territorial and maritime dispute between two powers that has been escalating, right, in recent years, especially over the past few months. Why China and Japan sparring over each 8 tiny islands, right? And it says question mark. Okay, China has been trying to assert control over the airspace in the East China Sea, right, which overlaps with the zone declared by Japan more than 4 decades ago, right, of post-World War II, controlled by the United States. That's where you get the movement again of commerce, movement of maritime ships, etc., etc. Like again, I'm not going into these too in depth. You can check it out. You can do your own video. You can do your own research for yourself. Okay, and then they named some other ones which you're not too interested about. You got Golden Heights, Gaza Strip, and West Bank. Okay, you got the Western Sahara, and you got this one I can't even pronounce something. I could pretend. Okay, and what's interesting, they haven't put Syria in there. Okay. All right, you got regional conflicts out there within Syria, Iran, etc., etc. But those are like the more important ones, because out there within Syria, where America is trying to assert themselves within Syria, then you're gonna have it to where the Russians are over there, and that could pop up into all out World War III. Okay, so let's go back to this, read a little bit of history and how a regional conflicts turn into full-on conflicts. Okay, all right, trade wars leading into hot wars, as some very edifying and powerful videos has shown us. Okay, but pretty much let's get into this. So it says Punic Wars were a series of conflicts fought between the forces of Carthage and Rome. So when you go into the history of Carthage, pretty much what you see is the legend says that the queen Dido of Carthage, all right, around about 800 BC or so. Okay, had it to where she fled Tyre, okay, and set up Carthage. Now, what conflict she was fleeing from Tyre, I haven't quite found out yet. I don't think it was Nebuchadnezzar, because Nebuchadnezzar was 700 BC, all right, of which Nebuchadnezzar had besieged Tyre for, I think it was a period of about 15 years, all right, without too much success, because it was out there offshore and that. Okay, but you can check out the history out there for yourself, right? So it says the name Punic, right, comes from the word Phoenician, right, or Phoenix in the Greek, or Pionus, right, from the Punicus in the Latin, as applied to the citizens of Carthage, who were Phoenicians of ethnicity. Okay, when Joshua went up into when Joshua and the people of Israel went up into the land, we pushed the Canaanites southernward, and they set up their own empires, and so on and so forth. And one of those empires, you had the Phoenicians, and then you had Tyre, Zidon, okay, etc., etc. Right. So let's carry on. It says, who were Phoenicians of ethnicity, as the history of conflicts was written by the Roman authors, labeled it the Punic Wars. Right. Carthage grew from a small port, right, to a port of coal to the richest and the most powerful city in the Mediterranean region, right? This is 260 BC. She had a powerful navy of a mercenary army, and through tribute, tariff, and trade, enough wealth to do as she pleased, right? Sounds like a little country that we know called America, right? Through a treaty with the small city of Rome, she barred Roman trade in the Western Mediterranean, as Rome had no navy, all right, and was able to easily enforce the treaty, right? Roman traders caught in the Carthaginian waters were drowned and their ships taken. Right, so we move on into the First Punic War, which is the meat that we're gonna go off of in this particular video. So it says, as long as Rome remained the little city of trade by the Tiber River, Carthage reigned supreme. But the island of Sicily, right, would be the flashpoint for the growing Roman resentment of the Carthaginians. Sicily lay partly under Carthaginian and partly under Roman control, and that's what you're seeing from these different regional conflicts that you have out there, right? The one that comes to mind is the Ukraine. They were speaking about it again, like I said again. I haven't gone into this in a little while. Okay, apologies if my information is a little bit off. All right, but you got American influence on one side. All right, and half the people want that influence coming into them, although it will destroy their whole economy. On the other side, you got the Russian interests. Okay, same thing out there within Syria. Those are two hotspots that we have to always keep our eye on, especially that of Syria, because that's probably going to turn out into an all-out World War III, or out there within Iran. Okay, with the thing with Iran, they got vast oil reserves. Okay, and they remain untouched. And another theory that goes into it is that you don't have it to where you have a all-out World Bank within Iran. Okay. So you got all types of different interests that America has within those regions, and that's causing tensions between Russia and America. And we know Russia and America is going to be the two superpowers that's going to go head to head to fulfill what it said within the scripture, war, or in other words, World War III. Okay, so let's carry on within this little piece of history, and then we go into these different articles and ultimately into the scriptures. Okay, so it says here. Sicily lay partly underneath Carthaginian and partly under Roman control. Now, you don't have to have it to where you got a situation where it's partly under these, two superpowers, if you will. You can have it to where something is wanted within that region, but it's controlled by another people. That's going to cause conflict. Okay, when Hero II of Syracuse fought against maritime Messina, of which those both cities were in Sicily. Right, the Maritimes asked first Carthage and then Rome for help. The Carthaginians already agreed to help and felt betrayed by the Maritime appeal to Rome. They changed sides, sending forces to Hero II, and the Romans fought for the Maritime of Messina in 264. And then Rome and Carthage declared war on each other over the control of Sicily. Okay, so we go into the map. You got an offshoot, okay, right? If you go northward, you're gonna find yourself in Tunisia, which is the modern day for a name for Carthage, okay. And you got it to where you got that little region there. That's where the conflict is. Now you got here north or more south of Italy, you got Massana, which is what we was reading in the history, and over here you got Syracuse, which is the other word we was reading within the history. And that's the two sides that initiated the original conflict. And now you got it to where they're gonna step in. That being Rome and Carthage to go off all out war. Okay, and the interest there was Sicily. Okay, because you have all of these maritime ports, right? Strategic placement of ports where you can have it to where ships is gonna go wherever. Okay, controlling this region was gonna be very advantageous to whoever had control over it. Okay, that's why you had it to where it said here that Rome was barred from doing certain things within this region, because that's where the trade was happening. That's where it was popping, man. That's where it was hot. Okay, but now you're seeing it to where we move down into the modern day times. It's popping up. It's popping up within certain areas. Now you go to where America's got control of all of these different countries by way of the petrodollar, etc., etc., etc. Okay, but these few countries like Iran, okay, Syria, are not underneath the ultimate rule of the American government. And that's going to lead out to an all-out World War III, man. Okay? That's going to lead out to an all-out World War III. Now, let's read a little bit like this of this article and see what it says. So it says, World War III is coming. This was posted Friday, the 10th of March, 2017. Someone might have did a video on it. I may even did a video on it. But I don't remember anything off the top of my head dealing with this article. It says, although there has been no major combat between the great powers since Second World War, all right, there are three key fronts emerging that may be the prospect of the third world conflict and alarmingly convincible. Okay, it says the prospect of a global conflict, World War III, if you like, appears somewhat unthinkable, but it's not unthinkable. It's prophesied within the scripture. It's an inevitability, right? Since since the Second World War, there has been no major war between great superpowers. The original post-war European project was based around social justice and harmony. The unraveling of this project, accompanied by rising nationalism, is likely to exacerbate the dangers of a continent with a fraught history of bloody conflicts. Right, in the 20th century, both world wars were unanticipated. Right, Christopher Clark's much acclaimed Sleepwalkers: How Europe Went to War in 1914, published in a timely fashion for the century of First World War, charted Europe's unexpected descent into war. And it's not unexpected, okay? This is not unexpected. When you study history, you understand how these things play out, okay? A region is of interest, okay, because it is useful for trade, is useful for resources, is useful for oil, is useful for gold, silver, etc., etc. All of these different things that all of these different countries want. And then you got it to where you got two opposing sides, as the scripture says, if two houses be divided up against itself, how shall it stand? Russia and America, they're both Edomite houses, but they have different ideologies. Now we all know ultimately that this is the elites are pushing for these different ideologies so they can have a controlled World War III in order to establish their so-called new world order. Okay, what they want is a controlled World War III, but the Most High is going to have to where this thing is just going to blow out of control, man. Okay, the Lord of hosts, he's the one that's going to muster up the host of battle, man. Okay, so it says, the scripture talks about how the wicked is going to be caught in their own craftiness. All right, so it says, charted Europe's. So we read that. All right, so the First World War had been preceded by a prelude of serenity. Okay, the long 19th century of relative peace and stability. Right, the powers of Edwardian Europe had engaged in diplomacy and trade prior to the onslaught of carnage. Okay, during the 1930s, major powers were keen to avert another war. Hence, policy of appeasement. The initial reluctance, right, to the U.S. to become involved, and the Nazi Soviet pact. Okay, so let's jump down. That's going into the history. You can read that for yourself. All right, so let's read these latter points here. All right, starting from where it's talking about the Ukraine. So it says, in this view, events in the Ukraine have merely been the end game in the process. Right, it's not worth recalling the United States did not respond amicably to the Soviet interference in Cuba in the 1960s. All right, such arguments has been rendered somewhat academic as they are overtaken by the events. Increasing deployment of troops by both NATO and Russia, dangerous confrontations and massive war games are being played out over what? Regional and territorial superiority. That's the same thing that we're reading about within the history. What do you think is going to happen now? They had an all-out world war there because you had you didn't have no regional superiority, and you had just what? You had a mess. So someone's going to have to take rule of whatever mess you got out there, and that's what you're going to have now. Okay, the European Leadership Network, ELN think tank produced a 2015 report entitled "Preparing for the West." Are Russian and American military exercise making war in Europe more likely? The report analyzed. Which that's a good video to go into. Analyzed recent war games, including a Russian exercise involving 80,000 military personnel and a set of NATO war games involving 15,000 personnel. It went on to say both exercises show that each side is training with the other side's capabilities and most likely war plans in mind. While spokespeople may maintain that these operations are targeted again at hypothetical opponents, the nature and scale of them indicate otherwise. Russia is preparing for a conflict with NATO, and NATO is preparing for a conflict, for a possible conflict with Russia. And it's not a possibility. We're reading about what's going to happen out here. Okay. right? So it goes into some other stuff. So now let's go into some of the geopolitics that's happening now here. So it says an interpret German author Eugen, okay, I can't speak no German, right, took the concept of embedded journalism to a whole new level, right, by holding up with ISIS. He points out that the immediate aftermath of 9/11, there were only a few hundred Islamist fighters in the Hindu Kush mountains, right, each through a 16 years of war on terror costing 4,000 billion, right, or 3,000, that's dollars, that's right, or 3.3 billion sterling, leaving 1.3 million dead, okay. That's the devil for you. Read about Isaiah 14, okay. According to physicians of social responsibility, and the number of terrorists is currently about 100,000. Even on its own terms, the war on terror has been an abysmal failure. But it hasn't been an abysmal failure if you knew what the end goal was. The end goal was to get them troops out there, okay, into those regions that didn't have control over. Okay, they got regional troops out there now in Iraq, and they got control of opium and oil. I believe they got oil out there within Iraq. They got control of that now, okay. And now they were trying to do the same thing on Iran, Syria, okay, the Ukraine. Okay, and ultimately, Russia is going to be wanting to be put in check, right? How on earth did this happen, right? Retired U.S. General Wesley Clark revealed that in the wake of 9/11, the Pentagon drew up plans to attack 7 countries. Okay, these plans were that might be the title of the video. Okay, Pentagon's plan to attack 7 countries. Okay, these plans have been adhered with remarkable fidelity with Western involvement in Iraq, Syria, Libya, Afghanistan, Pakistan, Somalia, and Yemen. The pretext may have been terrorism, but the intention was to guarantee economic and military supremacy within the region. Let's read that again, okay? Because that is the premise. That's what we're going for here. This is the marker. This is the point, okay? The plans have been adhered with remarkable fidelity within the Western involvement in Iraq, Syria, Libya, Afghanistan, Pakistan, Somalia, and Yemen. With the pretext may have been terrorism, but the intention was to guarantee economic and military supremacy in the region. Many critics argue that the Iraq War was fundamentally about opening up of state assets for global capital, right? Naomi Klein, right, reported that the reconstruction of Iran was estimated to have been worth 100 billion to the U.S. economy. And that's how the devil do. He goes out there and makes money in all types of, he diversifies his portfolio, man. Okay, right. In the process, Iraq was transformed from a secular dictatorship into a jihadist safe zone. Donald Roosevelt's decision to disband Saddam Hussein's Ba'athist, right, army led to a chaos, and now makes up a significant component of ISIS, of which we know America set up ISIS out there within the Middle East. The deliberate stoking of tensions through U.S.-sponsored sectarian Shia-led Iraqi government was notable. I mean, they're letting you know in this article, man. Okay, they're letting you know that America's gone out there, set up, destroyed Iraq, okay, in the Middle East, and set up so-called terrorist groups so that they can further their intentions of what a regional and economic advantage, man. Okay, so it says this ultimately led to Sunni backlash and spawning of Al Qaeda in Iraq. All right, this is a hallmark of colonial era tactics of divide and rule. In fact, British and American intelligence predicted that the Iraq war would lead to amplification of Islamic terrorism, man. They're going in on this article, bro. Okay, they're going in. Okay, so this is back in 2007, the veteran investigative, right, journalist Seymour Hersh, right, posited in an extended New York essay the redirection that the U.S. Middle East geopolitical strategy was directed against the regional superpowers of Iran, all right, and its Shia sphere of influence, right, extending through Syria and to Hezbollah in Lebanon. Okay, read that again, because that's me right there. Okay, it says back in 2007, the veteran investigative journalist Seymour Hersh posited in an extended New York essay the redirection that the U.S. Middle East geopolitical strategy was directed against the regional superpower of Iran. We know Iran is going to be involved within that World War III, and its Shia sphere, all right, of influence extending through Syria, which what they've been doing in Syria out there, trying to take Assad out of power, and his Shia sphere, okay, to Hezbollah and Lebanon, okay, where's Lebanon? Just right up there near Israel, isn't it? Let's find out. Okay. Hopefully nothing inappropriate pops up. Okay, Lebanon. Got images. Okay, so now you get an idea of what we're talking about here. So you got Israel right there to the south. Okay, you got Syria to the east over there. Okay, so we're in that region there, man, where it's hot. Okay, it's real hot. Okay, let's carry on with this now. I'm gonna just read a little bit of it. All right, I heard. So it goes on a little bit. So it says Hersh has since elaborated in a series of controversial London reviews of book essays that the overthrow of Bashar al-Assad would have severed this Shia sphere following the destruction of Iraq. This sphere remained the only obstacle to U.S. full spectrum dominance on the world's largest oil fields, man. Shit, man. And you know what? I just stumbled on this article, but that's the spirit, because the spirit wanted these things coming up, man. Okay? So it says the Syrian war has seen allies Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and Turkey arming and funding radical jihadist groups such as the Al Nusra fronts. Former Vice President Joe Biden, renowned for bloopers, frankly admitted as much to the Harvard audience. Right, the WikiLeaks disclosure of Hillary Clinton's emails revealed that she too was aware of Saudi and Qatari government arming ISIS. Right, and the real politic, right, the ends apparently justify the means. And what's the ends? Right, to dominate for U.S. full spectrum dominance of the world's largest oil fields. And just like how we're reading in the history out here, okay, just like how we're reading within the history out here, okay, regional dominance, okay, leading out there to the all-out World War IIIs. And we're going to read about that within the prophecies in a second, okay? So is there anything else? I mean, there's bound to be a lot more in there that's meaty, okay? There's bound to be a lot more in there that's meaty, okay? So I advocate any brothers out there that want to use this article. It's right there. World War III is coming, the independent. So let's go into the scriptures now in an effort to try keep this video right in a reasonable time. Right, Isaiah the 13th chapter on the 4th verse, it says, "The noise of a multitude in the mountains, like as of a great noise, a tumultuous people, a tumultuous noise of kingdoms and nations gathered together. The Lord of hosts mustereth up the hosts of battle." Okay, they come from afar. So these are these things that we're seeing here. Okay, so going back even before these regional conflicts, the Most High was summoning up different people to war, and the same thing is happening now. Okay, 6th verse, "Howl ye, for the day of the Lord is at hand, it shall come as a destruction from the Almighty." Let's go to Joel the 3rd chapter. "Behold, in those days and in that time I shall bring again the captivity of Judah and Jerusalem, right? And I will also gather all nations and I'll bring them down into the valley of Jehoshaphat, and I'll plead with my people there for my people, and for my heritage, Israel, whom they have scattered amongst the nations and parted my land." All right, and they've cast lots upon my people. Okay, you seen the captivity that we gone through. Okay, cast lots on my people. They've given a boy for an harlot, sold a girl for wine, that they might drink. Okay, so as the Most High is removing us from this state of being in captivity, He's gonna be putting hell upon these nations. See, the hell is like an energy, man. It needs to exist within the world. It needs to exist within the universe. And the Most High is just going to simply take it away from us, the captivity, away from the Negroes, Hispanics, Native Americans. And don't you Edomites lie like we're not in captivity underneath you, man. Okay? We're the scum of the earth right now. So the Most High is going to take that position of being a scum and He's going to put it upon you. Read about the book of Isaiah, the 14th chapter, how Lucifer was fallen, of which you Edomites, you qualify for that because you're the light bearer right now, man. Okay? All right, so it says here, yea, you have, so that's pretty much it. Okay? So hopefully, man, that was of edification. Apologies for the areas that I fall short in. If you got questions that I can't answer, that I can answer, leave them on the comment board. If I can't answer them, I'll ask, there's brothers that are real deep into this geopolitics, and I could definitely ask them, and you definitely have the answer to whatever your question may be. So I'm going to say, all praise unto Yahweh, Shemi Al-Shai. Double honors to the apostles of GreatMillStone for showing us this truth, right? Showing us the way of being a man, the way of being a man of the Lord within these end times. And honestly, brothers that be pushing this truth, right? Co-fighting, right? The battle of putting this word out. And Lord's will, I'll see you on the next one. Shalom.